Market Mondays, everybody. Welcome back. Blair Nightingale here. As always, I say this every time. I'm going to say it again today. The same time, same channel. We're doing Market Mondays here. What is Market Monday? What's the point of what we're doing here? Well, there's lots of things that we're trying to do here. I think there's lots of benefits for everybody to take away from this. But specifically, I'm just trying to come in and do two things every single Monday regarding no matter what we talk about, okay? Number one, I want to help you make sense of what's happening in the stock market. Number one, I want to give you a sense of you have a better idea of how to know what's happening in the stock market. Not just having somebody else tell you, but help you make sense of what's happening. Tom, I can see your comment there. Good afternoon to you too. Always good to have you, Tom. Always good to have everybody. I can see folks piling in here. So good to have you, as always. And so if you want to drop a comment, let me know. You're on the broadcast, where you're from, what platform you're watching on, where do you like to watch this? Let me know. I love to hear from you guys. And I'm able to answer questions, respond to comments, anything like that if you go ahead and you just post right on there. So that said, I want to give you something practical today. Very, very practical. We've been talking about it's not that scary. It's not that scary. And I think today it's probably worth saying there's a little bit of a variation. Today, you can see in the title, we're going to talk about charting. Now, I don't start with that because I want you to understand charting, depending on where we're at in our trading journey, it might sound a little bit mysterious, or what does it really mean, or it sounds really dry, or whatever. But the truth is actually charting is super, super powerful, and it's one of my favorite parts of trading. It really is one of my favorite parts, because here's what's cool about trading, and specifically charting, rather, charting in trading. Charting is what helps me see patterns. It helps me make decisions. And I've said this before too. Most of us, if we don't have any training in this, if we've never had anybody show us something, if we are like most of our neighbors who just go out and buy stocks, stock trading right now is growing. I've said this before. You and I are what Wall Street calls retail traders. Right now, that is growing in record numbers. Brokerage firms, we talked about opening a brokerage account. Brokerage firms are reporting record numbers of new applications, all the way from the free mobile apps like a Robinhood, something like that, over to more of the full service online brokers that we talked about last week. Okay, so retail trading exploding right now. People want in on the opportunities, okay? And of course, a lot of us are at home. There's financial uncertainty, all these different things. And the stock market, honestly, has just been in the news more since the last election. Now, the stock market's always in the news, but it's really been in the news because we have a president who brings it up a lot, talks about it a lot, understands a lot more about it, perhaps than previous presidents have, or at least has brought that into focus more so. So it's exploding. And the thing I'm going to show you today, the tools I'm going to show you today in charting are foundational. They're so important. And most people who are in that wave of people that, like I said, this is exploding, a lot of those people don't know this. Now, I was going to say most. I don't know. I don't know if most don't, but I can tell you that traders that I meet or people who want to get into this, they don't spend any time learning these tools. So this is something practical that you're going to get today. And I think that's what Market Mondays is really all about, right? This isn't just giving you fish, but teaching you how to fish. And today are going to be some valuable lessons. For that, I can see the comments. Benjamin, Jeffrey, welcome. Yes, Benjamin, charting. Let's go. Yeah, let's go. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to do some practicals today. I want you to understand, what does this do for me? And then we're going to go and we're going to pull up some charts and I'll actually do some charting. This is something that you will need to practice. Okay, you'll need to practice it. It's an art, it's a science, it's both, okay? It's a process for me. I've been doing it for years, so we just continue doing the process and learning how to do it better and better and better. And that's what we're going to look at doing, okay? So charting is how I begin to get beyond guessing with a stock, okay? Like I said, record numbers of retail traders coming into the market, and they're just buying. Now they're buying based on the ways a lot of people would buy stocks. I like the company, right? It's a popular company. I heard some kind of news about this company that gives me a positive expectation of where they're going. So I think I'll go out and I'll buy the stock. Now, keep in mind, there's a difference between investing and trading. Investing and trading. There could be this kind of sneaky feeling that the idea of trading might be more scary than investing, because investing, I'll just buy something and hold it for a long time and see what happens. Whereas trading is more precise. I've got to make more decisions. So we might think, ooh, that's scary. Remember, that's what this is all about. It's not that scary. I'm going to show you that, because with a little bit more of a skill set, you can objectively see how we can use charting to tell us when we should and should not trade. Okay, and if that's cleared up, then it doesn't have to be scary. And it's more educated and more objective than just a hunch on news or a personal bias. The company is good. And I'll just say this, full disclosure, to be clear, I'm not suggesting that investing is not worthwhile. That long-term buy and hold investing is not worthwhile. And that if we are going to do long-term buy and hold investing, that we bring in more of what we call fundamentals, right? Fundamentals, the health of the company, the potential of the company, the growth of the company, and the news I'm hearing about that informing a decision on why I should buy and hold a stock. But we're talking about trading, okay? We're talking about trading. So you can have a stock for a certain amount of time, or you could trade that stock in between those two time frames. So that's really what we're talking about. So two foundational, and I put this in my notes, I want to say this, potentially life-changing tools. Now that sounds like fluff, right? It sounds like, okay, Blair, life-changing. No, listen, it really is. It really is. If you've never heard this, if you've never used this, if you've never seen this, or maybe we just need to be reminded of the basics. I do a lot of coaching. I coach people who are trading stocks. And I find that I have to come back to these foundational things over and over. It doesn't matter what skill level or level of success the trader is at. We need to be reminded over and over. And I've seen this, of these two things. These two things are so important. So when I say potentially life-changing, I actually mean that. I actually mean keeping these things in view. And again, bringing these things into view, if you've never seen them before, is actually really, really powerful. And I know that's why you're on here. You don't want to waste your time being on here just hearing me talk. We want to transfer energy here. I want to give you something that you can use, and you can use this. So it's really important, right? It's really important. It's just this, okay? It's basic, which is good because it's accessible. We can all remember it and we can all do it, okay? So number one, seeing a pattern. I'm going to show you. We need to see patterns, okay? If you were in a boxing match, this is what fighters do, okay? And the opponent did the exact same thing every single time. You may take a minute, depending on how much training you have, to get used to that. You may even take a hit, maybe two. But if it's always the same, it's just going to get easier and easier and easier. You say, well, Blair, that doesn't make any sense to me. The stock market's not always the same. The stock market as a whole is not always the same. But what if I only trade when I see stocks that keep doing the same thing over and over and over? Now we've got a different ballgame. There are over 8,000 publicly traded stocks on the U.S. stock exchange. right? US stock exchanges. There's a few exchanges. So I can go where it works for me and stay away from where it's not going to work for me. You say, well, what do you mean by work for me? I mean, where is it repeating? We say this at Tradeway all the time. Reliable, predictable, repeatable. That's the kind of pattern I'm looking for. And there are different kinds of pattern. We're going to look at one today, one kind of pattern today. I want to give that to you. We've looked at some in some charts already on previous weeks, but I'm going to lay that foundation again today. That is number one, pattern. I want to say this again because I think this is really important. The market isn't perpetually repeating the same thing over and over again in a single stock, but I can limit my activity to stocks that are repeating the same thing over and over. And when you think about it, why would I trade anything else? Why would I even bother trading something else if I could take advantage of repetition? And that's what I seek to do, and that's what patterns help me do. So we're already starting to take the guesswork out of it and put the probabilities in our favor. Because, you know, trading is never about knowing what's going to happen. Charting isn't about knowing exactly what's going to happen. If somebody tells you that they know what's going to happen in the stock market, you know, they maybe have the best intentions, but it's not true because they don't know. There's no way they can know that. There's no way they could know that. But they could know this has more of a probability of doing what I want it to do than, say, this other stock because it has a pattern. So number one, pattern. And then in a pattern, I'm going to put these pieces together for you in a second, is drawing what we call support and resistance. Support and resistance. When you buy a stock, what way do you want it to go? Right? Well, you want it to go up. Michael, I see you there. Benjamin, yes. Patterns, good trade. Patterns, bad cash. You'll have to explain to me what you mean by that one, Benjamin. Patterns, good trade. Patterns, bad cash. So we're going to put those two together, but what we want to do is understand that when we buy a stock, it's going to go, we want it to go up. So the bottom line we're going to put on here is called support. It supports the price. It supports it from falling. It's the floor, if you will. The resistance, well, what do I want when I buy a stock? I said that, right? Well, I want it to go up. Well, how far? As high as it wants to. I want it to go way up. But stocks don't do that, right? They go up some, and then they come back down, okay? They eventually will come down, at least some. So how can I identify where it might stop going up and start coming down? And if I could identify that, would that be a good place to sell the stock if I owned it? Yeah, it definitely could be. So this is actually practically helping me know when is a good time and when is not a good time to buy a stock. It's very practical. When is a good time to sell and maybe not a good time to sell the stock? Don't want to sell too early. Don't want to sell too late, right? So these are skills that can be used. So that's the transfer, that's the benefit that we get from learning how to do this. And this session is about charting. This is the foundation of charting. This is what it's all about. We add pieces as we go on, as we get more advanced. Okay, some of our programs at Tradeway here, we help you walk through full trades. We help you walk through the process of understanding how to manage a trade. That's the next step. But again, we never graduate from these first two things. I got a pattern, reliable, predictable, repeatable, and I got support and resistance drawn, okay? And I have somebody to help me when I'm asking questions about drawing those. So that's where this goes from here. But this is the foundation, okay? Now, here's another thing. The market itself is something at Tradeway. We like to say this phrase: rising tides lifts all boats, right? So at Tradeway, we are always assessing how Positive or negative is the market itself, not just one stock, not just one company, the whole market. And one of the ways we assess that positivity or negativity, in other words, are they buying, are they selling, is through charting the market itself. I'm going to show you that today, okay? Charting the market itself. If I don't know how to chart, I can't do that. I have to let the news organization tell me. I have to let CNBC tell me what they think. I look at those things, but I look at them second. I look at my chart and what I think first, because I know how to do that, okay? That's what we're going to look at too. So this helps me know when the tide is rising or falling. Because you know what? If the tide is about to fall or looks like it's about to fall, because I've charted it, I'm not going to buy stocks that day. Okay, we have a program at Tradeway. It's called Insider Plus. I posted for our students today. I literally said to them, today is not a day I would be buying stocks. Speaking of today, Monday, July 13th. By the end of the day, we'd hit that resistance line that they've been looking at that I've drawn weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And it plummeted. We had almost an 85-point spread today from the high of the day in the market to the low of the day in the market. So what does this mean? It means the market tanked at the end of the day today, and I warned them that it could happen. Of course, I didn't know for sure it would. Remember, I said nobody knows for sure. But watch out. We've done some charting. There's lots of resistance. This really could sell off, and sure enough, by the end of the day, it didn't. So a day we might have gone and got into trades and then been like, oh no, it's dropping. We were able to avoid that through charting. So that's something that I want to give you today too. We got to know what's the overall tone of this market before we go buying. Charting helps me do that. That said, this helps me have a lot of peace when I'm trading, okay? When I'm looking for trades. I think charting is as much about eliminating opportunities or things that I might perceive as an opportunity as it is about finding the ones I like. Because there's so many stocks. Remember, I said 8,000 some stocks. I'm eliminating the ones that don't look the way I want them to look. You know, and it's a temptation for traders that are untrained to just let price action, we call it, movement, just suck them in. Oh, I could trade anything. Well, I don't want to trade anything. I want to trade reliable, predictable, repeatable, and I need charting to help me see which ones fit the bill. And when I know that I'm relying on probabilities and not guessing, right? I'm managing risk. So what a lot of people say about stock trading immediately. Again, it's not that scary. Well, if we think stock trading is just wild, runaway risk, and hopefully, like gambling, we come out ahead, there's going to be so much fear and anxiety. No wonder we're afraid of it. But that's actually not trading. That's actually not how this works. So it brings peace. It helps bring a very important part of peace, okay? And I could go on and on about the benefits of charting, but those are some big ones. Those are some big ones. So let me just check, make sure we don't have any questions. Understood. Okay, Benjamin, I'm going to pop this up on the screen. I'm going to pop this up. Benjamin's saying trade on patterns, but when you don't see a pattern, stay in cash until you find a stock you like with a pattern you're willing to trade on. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that's what I'm saying. I've said this before. If we are at a dance, this is for all the ladies and all the guys on this broadcast, you're going to pick the one that you want to dance with, but you don't have to marry that stock. You're just going to date. You're going to go for the one that works for you. And then when it stops working, you're going to move on. And that's how we're going to do stocks. And that's what Benjamin is saying here. If I don't see a pattern, not going to happen. You don't get access to my dollars. And that's just being smart. Okay. And I know everybody on here wants to grow in that wisdom. We want to steward what we've been given. And I'll tell you guys, I've been convicted of this at another level lately. You know, I was reading in Luke this morning, and there's a lot There's a lot, obviously, Jesus says about money. But being a wise and faithful steward, for me, has called me to another level of responsibility over my own trading. When I don't see what I want to see on that chart, I will not allow this desire just to trade or, oh, maybe it's good, stretch it. All these temptations that I know come up for traders. No, we're going to look for patterns. We're going to look for good ones. We're going to practice support and resistance. We're going to get good at it. And then we're going to make good, wise decisions with our money. Okay. Those dollars are soldiers. They're soldiers for your life. They're soldiers for your family. They're soldiers for the destiny and calling. It's not that our life comes down to one decision or one trade or $1 or that somehow that rules us. No, God does. Right? He's our final authority. He's our source. He's our peace. Of course, all of that is true. But I'm saying each one of those dollars is a little soldier. And I want to put them to work in the best, most advantageous places. And that is what charting does. So let me go ahead, share my screen here so that we can actually get some eyes on this. And I'll say this. I have not gone ahead and preloaded stocks that have good patterns. Not that there would be any problem with that, right? I want to show you guys some good patterns. And I know a few that are out there anyway, so we'll jump to those if we need to. But we're just going to literally go through a list, right? And I'll find some patterns and we'll draw some lines. And that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to do that a few times. I want you to see. So first of all, I know we've got people on this broadcast that have less experience, some who have more experience, some are in some of our programs, some of you are not, but you've been joining us. I know there's going to be plenty of folks who are joining us, YouTube, Facebook, and watching the recording of this, okay? So we're from all different places. That said, when I look, let's just take this chart, okay? This chart, or let me scroll through for a second even, okay, look at that. It's gone ballistic. Okay, now I've got some lines on here. I'm going to remove them just so we can start from scratch. How many of these, I'll come back to this one, NIO. How many of these just don't make sense at all to a lot of folks out there? Look at that. What is that? That's crazy. Okay. Sure, they're generally, most of us, we recognize, well, the general overall direction of that stock is moving up, right? Hopefully we see that. That's helpful. But really making sense of all this movement at first can be kind of like, I don't really know. What are all these things? What am I looking at here? So I had some lines on this one. Here's what I want to see, and I actually am going to go over to a pattern here somewhere. Here's what I want to see. You see the lines on there, so that's where we're going to end up. But I want to show you a pattern, okay? Remember we said, first thing, pattern. Well, what kind of pattern? Well, there's multiple patterns, right? In fact, there's many. Doesn't mean they're all created equal. Doesn't mean they're all really that great, or perhaps it's more accurate to say they're not all that common. What is really common when the market, the whole of the market, right? Let's say the S&P 500, which is one of the indexes. We've talked about that before. When that is going up, it's just going up. And if you'll notice, or if you'll remember, in Corona, we had a massive crash and we've been moving up ever since. So you have I have to see the screen a little differently here. You have the crash went down and then it's a V, right? It's literally looking like this, right? So we see a lot of stocks like this, where I'm circling on my screen here, where it's moving up higher. The general direction, if I put just a line kind of straight through the middle of it, is like this, right? We're going up. We're getting that kind of V. But you'll notice it doesn't go up from here all the way straight up. No. It goes up, it pulls back. Goes up, it pulls back. Goes up, pulls back. Up, back. Up, back. And you'll notice when it pulls back, it doesn't pull back nearly as far as it did last time. See, here it went up and then down to the same level. But here it goes up, it's higher. Up, it's higher, right? It closes higher. It tested pretty low, or pretty close to that same level, but it closes higher. Up, higher, right? So it's making what we call higher lows. This is what we call an uptrend. We're seeing a pattern or a trend, and that trend is that the stock keeps moving up. It pulls up, pulls down, but not as far. Pulls up, pulls down, but not as far. Pulls up and goes higher, but then pulls down, but not as far, right? I'm just repeating myself because that's exactly what we need to see. That it just repeats, and that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. Now, is there other factors to selecting trades? Sure there are. Like I said, there are other things we do in the program to help us know what's the best trade. But this is the foundation. This is where it starts. So what do I do? Number 2, remember I said support and resistance. I need support and resistance. So I'm going to go and I'm going to look, where did this pattern start? And I'm going to drop a line in there. And it's okay if I drop it in and then kind of play with it from there, right? I can change the angle a little bit. Now I want to show you something here. Here's a quick tip. These are what we call candlesticks. For those of you who do not know, candlesticks. They kind of look like candlesticks, right? You've got what we call a wick, like a candle, and you've got a body like a candle. Now I'm just going to give you a quick intro on candlesticks here. There are 4 prices to a candlestick, okay? I'm looking at this guy right here. The high, look at where that wick is. The price went all the way up there, but it didn't close there. It actually pulled back down to this level right here, which is where it closed. So that is the body. It opened right here. It moved up and closed right there. But it actually, early in the day, went lower than the open. So it dropped. It was actually down for the day, but it didn't stay there. So candlesticks help us see, where did it open? Where did it close? What was the high? It went to the high, but it didn't stay there. What was the high? What was the low? It went to the low, but it didn't stay there. What was the low? So that's a candlestick, and we can see all of these. Some of them have big wicks on them. Whoa, it went way up, but it didn't stay there. Some of them don't. Look at this one. It has barely any wick on it at all, okay? So it went down, but it stayed down. So that's a candlestick. So I use these candlesticks to see where I can draw my lines, okay? I've trained my eyes now. See these, I kind of call them peaks and valleys. Like they're like mountains to me, right? Like a mountain range. It's just these upside down V's. I like them when they look pretty. I like them when they jump out at me. I like them when it's easy to see. So then I drop that line in there. I'll come, whatever software I'm using, I'll create a parallel line, and I'll come in and I'll drop another one in there. This is what I was going to say. Tip 1. If I can, I try to draw on the bodies of the candlesticks more than the wicks. I will use wicks. You can see one right here. It's nice. But I look for bodies if I can. And remember, like I said, you drop it in and you can kind of play around with it from there. Find a better level. Support and resistance comes from drawing these lines. And this is something we practice. You say, well, Blair, look, it came out of those lines. Yes, it did. So what did it do? It went up here. It came down, got close, but never really hit that line, okay? Tried, failed, came down here. Where did it actually start to move up off resistance here? It didn't. See, it didn't. Remember I said this is going to benefit you to know when to buy and sell a stock. Well, it didn't get above that line. It didn't close above that line. So I'm not going to buy that. And we would teach you that in our program. I would never buy that. So I wouldn't even be in that stock. So the lines didn't fail me there. They actually could have. And in my case, because I wouldn't break the rule there, Not to say that I never have. In my early days, we learn what rules to break, or what rules we like to break. And then we have Tradeway coaches work with us to help us overcome that. It's very real. And those of you who've traded out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But according to this system, no, you wouldn't buy that. So the line would actually help give you clarity. No, that's not the girl at the dance I'm looking for. It was strong. It was great, but it's acting a little weird. It's acting a little crazy now. And I don't want to do crazy with my money. So I'm sitting this one out, right? I want to see a strong, healthy, reliable, predictable, repeatable. And I know when it is that because I plop those lines down on there and like clockwork, it just keeps doing what we thought back here, right? Now you say, well, Blair, it's easy to go back in time and just draw lines on an old pattern. Well, let me say two things to that. Number one, boom, it hits right here. It hits right here. And then the third one hits right here. Okay, it closes above this line or really just at this line. So we may have not been in the stock till that day on that one. Okay, let's just even say for the sake of argument, we go, no, we didn't get in there either. We got in here perfectly. It moves up off that line. You've got 1, 2, 3. This is now the fourth convincing bounce. That could have been a great trade for us. That's not based just because it's hindsight. We would have had all of this to go on. That's a beautiful pattern. It's not unreasonable to say that we could have found that as it is on the screen right now and set up a potential trade. Now, remember I said two things I was going to say. So that's number one, right? Number two, some of these patterns last a long time. Some of them change sooner. Some of them change quicker. This one failed at this point, right? But some of them do last a long time. How long does a pattern last, you might ask? Until it fails, right? Sounds like an obvious statement, but that's the answer. A pattern is a pattern until it breaks support or resistance. Once it breaks that, then I go, oh, don't know what's happening here anymore, right? I don't have enough intel for the battlefield for my little soldiers, my dollars. It's foggy. It wasn't, now it is. Nope, not doing it. Support and resistance helps me make that decision. So let me go back to the top. Actually, let me just quickly check. I want to make sure we don't have some questions. Jeffrey, stock number one, what can you do for me? Stock number two, are you a good dancer? I mean, yeah, that's what we're looking for. Michael, this is a good question. What is the time frame you use to chart? 1 year, a 3 year? Thank you. That is a fantastic question. So let me jump back over here and answer that because some of us may be a little confused by that. Remember I mentioned these candlesticks. One thing I meant to say and did not, so thank you for reminding me of this. Each of these candlesticks on this chart, the one we're looking at, right? This software shows me these candlesticks. Each of these candlesticks represents one single trading day. So 5 trading days to the week, obviously, Monday through Friday is when the stock market is open. So I've got 1 day for each candlestick, which then we call the daily chart. What is it, Blair, are you on the daily chart? Yeah, I'm on the daily chart because each one of my candlesticks represents 1 day. Somebody says, oh, well, I like to trade on a monthly chart. Oh, okay. So you like it when every candlestick represents a month. So it has a month of price information in each candlestick, not just a day. Okay, now it's beyond the scope of this broadcast to go, well, why would somebody trade in the month? Why would somebody do? We can do bigger time frames, smaller time frames. But for us, Tradeway, we use the daily chart. So to answer the question, I'm using the daily. So what you're looking at here is the daily. I'm always trading on the daily. I did use a smaller time frame chart where each of the candlesticks only represent just a few minutes, just to show some students in one of our programs, our Insider Plus program, just how close we came to the support and resistance lines that I had drawn for the market today. Remember, I told them today is not a day I would be buying. I would not be buying stocks today, and here's why. And later in the day when it dropped, I was able to go to a smaller time frame and show just how close the candlesticks came to my resistance line before it tanked. So there's little things like that. I might use a smaller time frame, but to keep it very simple, daily. I always use the daily. One candlestick is one day, okay? So great questions. I'm loving this. We're getting questions. Ralph, do you get in on the third bounce? Yes. Okay. That's a fantastic question too. So let's go back to this. So let's just say 1, 2, 3. Now, Ralph, you can send in another message if you want here, just to clarify, because your question is great, Ralph. It could be, Blair, would you trade this particular bounce? Because there's this space here between the candlesticks, okay, which can be a little bit trickier. Could be. So is the question, would you trade that? Or on any pattern, are you waiting for the third bounce? Which I suspect is probably what it is, and I think it's a fantastic question. And by and large, yes, I'm going to wait for 3, because when does reliable, predictable, repeatable actually become that? Reliable, predictable, repeatable. So if I've got this, now we have the benefit of hindsight. See, we know what's hidden on the right side of the screen. But if this was actually still today, that would not be so clear. Yes, we'd have a low here, but we came back down to the same level, and we went up. Remember, we pulled back, but not as much. We went up, we pulled back. I'm looking for it to touch. Oh, there we go. We went a little bit below, so I don't have any business with that right now, right? I'm not going to trade that. And then right there, we actually closed above the line, okay? It was below it, so that's a little weird, but it's above that line, okay? So would I 1, 2, 3? I'd feel much better about looking for a strong bounce after 3 times than I would be right here. That's pretty darn early. Could you do it? Could it work? Yeah, you could, but just remember, you would be drawing this line. Let's just for the sake of illustration here, let's get rid of all of them. Boom. I would only have this to go on. I don't know what I just did there. Okay, let me get rid of that. Delete. Do you really want to delete? Yes, I do. Okay, so that's all I would have, right? That's more speculative. It's less based on a pattern, because I hadn't really seen a pattern yet. It hit, it went up, it came down, but it hasn't shown me that it wants to come up and back down and hold again. So I much prefer the third time. Boom. Right? That would be nice. So that is a great question, right? That's a great question. And if it was more of a question about the gap in particular, I might get it on the gap. That gets a little bit deeper into what we teach in terms of a trading plan and helping each trader understand, hey, what's the risk that you're okay with, right? Because if you're going to buy further from support, then you're going to have more risk, because we're going to teach you how to use a stop out. And that means your buy point is going to be further from your stop out than it would have been. So some traders might take that trade, and some will say, nope, that's not the girl I want to dance with. That's not the guy I want to dance with. Too risky. So I'm out. Or somebody else might actually do that. Okay, great questions. Great questions. I'm going to keep checking in on there because I love having those questions. Why not hear from you guys and understand what it is that you're really thinking and seeing, as opposed to just going on and on and on. I think I got some good stuff for you, but I'd rather hear from you so I know how to plug that information in for you the most beneficial way. So let's just take a little trip through this here, okay, as we're kind of going to start winding down here, but I want you to get this too. You say, well, Blair, I look at this chart, and I'll just say this: it's a very low dollar. This is $2 stock. Okay, so I'm not necessarily worried about whether a stock is cheap or expensive right now. I'm just looking at patterns, okay? So you say, well, I don't know what that's doing. That doesn't look like the one you just showed me. Yeah, you're exactly right. It doesn't. It doesn't. I have no problem skipping a stock when I don't see the pattern I'm looking for. Remember, big part of charting is just helping me be confident in what I'm looking for, right? I know what I'm looking for. So when I don't see it, it doesn't make me think I'm not a good trader or I'm bad at recognizing patterns. And I know sometimes new students can feel that way. I just go, skip, right? Yeah, you can see like this is doing something like that, but is it as pretty as the other one? Not in my opinion, right? And selecting trades isn't all about what Blair's opinion is. That's why you get to do your own charting. But I do want it to look pretty clean, pretty. So I skip through. Sometimes you see old lines on these, right? Here's something interesting. This is Twitter, okay? So let's just look at Twitter for a second. Look at that pattern. Now that went on longer than the last one, okay? I'm going to delete this line. And then this is an old line too. So let me go ahead. It's interesting, and this is what I'm going to show you. Look at this pattern, okay? Obviously right here, that's pretty good. It's been doing the same thing over and over, right? Even here, if we got in this stock, it comes back down, right? The way we teach a stop out, this went below the line, but it didn't go really far below that line. So depending on where your stop out was, you may be in the trade, you may not be in the trade, but this is still fairly close, and it actually closed above the support line. So stopping out that day would be unlikely, although possible, but unlikely. So you'd still be in the trade, and you'd do just fine. But let's look at this. It goes up. We're looking on the right side here now, guys. And then it actually breaks down, okay? The pattern changed. Is it possible to get into a stock that has a good pattern and see the pattern change while you're in the play? Yeah, totally. That totally happens. I don't need to judge my trading by one trade, whether it wins or loses. I use patterns and support and resistance to put the math in my favor so that over time, I have potentially more winning trades than losing ones. That's the idea. It's actually shocking to somebody, probably, and we're going to talk about this next week. It's not that scary losing, because if you have one guarantee in the stock market, it's that you're going to take a loss. But that's actually really normal, and the pros know that. People who do really well at trading, they know that. And we're going to talk about that next week. But you can see that on the chart here. But check this out. This line was not drawn when this price information was happening. This line was drawn back here. But look what the stock does. It drops. It comes up to that exact line. And now what used to be support has become resistance. This is still, after as many years as I've been doing this, is still amazing to me to think that me, little old Blair Nightingale, can sit at home and draw lines. Now, it doesn't mean my lines are always the best or right, but this is a pretty clear pattern. And that's why I like really clear patterns, because it's not hard to figure out what it's doing or where support and resistance should or could go. And in this case, like I said, little old me draw these lines, and then 2-3 weeks later, as this plays out, I find that the big money on Wall Street is buying and selling and using the same line. And that's what charting does. It helps me see where are the big money, the big boys we call them, where are they turning the stock, causing it to go up, selling and causing it to go down. It's like a wave. I want to ride that wave, okay? Support and resistance helps me spot the waves that I should try and catch, right? If you've ever been surfing, okay, I'll tell you this story really quick. I was on a tradeway trip in Hawaii, and I went out and did a surfing lesson, okay? I see your question there, Michael. I'm going to get to that. You could spend a whole lot of energy swimming on a surfboard. And when you are going to catch a wave, you've got to swim as hard as you can into that wave. And if you get ahead of it and it's a good wave, it will take the board and off you go for the ride of a life. I'm telling you, it's so fun. For those of you who've done it, you know. If you haven't, it's so much fun. But if you don't know how to read them, you'll take every swell that comes your way and swim. And guess what's going to happen? You're going to use all your energy on waves that don't catch you, don't propel you. And then after a little bit of time, you're going to be so tired, you're going to quit. And that's it. You're just going to get out of the water. And that was a surfing experience. Well, this is a lot the same. This is the same in a lot of ways, right? We've got to know which are the good ones, which are not. Charting helps us do that. I've said that over and over for a purpose. I want us to understand, how does this fit in? How does this work? Michael has a question for us. I review charting weekly, but out of the top 3 that I find, I tend to trade the one that does the least. What am I doing wrong? Well, that's a fantastic question. And I know that sometimes there's elements to trading that, it can make us feel like, oh man, it's as soon as I got into that stock, it just turned around and went the other way. It did it because I got in, and of course that's not true. And not necessarily what you're emphasizing here, Michael, but I just know for some folks out there that can feel that way. I review charting weekly. I pick 3 stocks, and then I get in one of the 3, and then out of the 3, I find, that one didn't do as well. Well, I can answer that question to a degree. Obviously, I don't have some of the stocks you've been looking at, but I will give you a couple of quick, easy things you could consider if that is the case, okay? The first thing that comes to mind really that's important is the industry. What is the industry that you're trading in? We also, remember I said, we add there's some other pieces to support and resistance in charting that we bring in for our students in the program. One of them might be helping them identify what are good industries right now, right? What are strong industries where buying is stronger, right? In some cases, feverish. So if I had 3 great patterns and the chart in and of itself, like we were just looking at, doesn't make one of them a clear winner to me versus the others, I'm going to look at some other factors to help me go, which one is stronger? One of the things I might look at, industry group. Over the last, 2.5 months, what's been the hottest industry group in the stock market? I'm gonna give it a second. I'm gonna see if somebody out there knows it. If you have an idea, what's the hottest industry in the stock market right now? Not necessarily the hottest stock itself, but the hottest industry, something that's doing very, 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 very well. Okay, as this series goes on, we're actually going to take some days and we're going to look at specific companies, specific stocks that are just doing crazy things right now. And that comes to mind as I think. All right, I'm going to close it off. I don't see anybody raising their hand, so to speak. I'm going to show you what it is. This will be fun to know. Okay. This will be fun to know. Jeffrey says, tech, right? Technology, the technology sector. Ding, 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 ding. That is correct. Now, full disclosure, I'm not saying go out there and buy some tech. Yes, tech. Tom says yes, tech. Yes, the answer is tech. It's tech. It's been propping up the market in some ways. I mean, it's just been bananas. If you guys haven't gone and looked at Tesla lately or Netflix, it's bananas. And so, yes, tech, big tech is very, very, very strong. Now, I'm not saying, Michael, what you need to do is go pick tech all the time. In fact, since it's been so strong, perhaps next week we say, whoa, tech is now the weakest. It got smashed because it was so high and now they're selling. So we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But looking backwards, I can tell you that has been very, very strong. So for me, I'm aware of some of those things. And again, we're helping our students find out how to be aware of those things so that they can add some of those extra things to the toolbox, if you will. When you do have 3 patterns like that you find, well, I got 3 patterns here. They all look pretty good. Which one do I go with? And again, that feeling of, geez, I feel like I keep picking the wrong one. Well, I guess my question for you, and this is beyond the scope of what we're able to do on this platform, but here's a question I would ask, any student, if I was working with you on this, which by the way, in our programs, this is what we do. So Michael sends in this question. Well, as a Tradeway student, you have access to our platform where you can actually message me at any time of the trading day. You can direct message me, and Michael could go, okay, remember I mentioned I have 3 stocks that I want to trade? Well, here they are. This is the 3 of them. And this is why I picked the one I picked. And that's what I would say. Why are you picking the one you're picking? If they're 3 and they're 3 good patterns and they look equally as good on the chart, something steered you towards that stock. And it would help me work with you individually on what did you do? Because it's not always about what's happening on the chart. It's about what's happening in the trader. Not that something wrong is occurring, but that's such a big part of charting, is understanding the person who's interacting with the chart. I think of it like this all the time. There is a car and there is a driver. And if in training someone to drive, we only bought them a car, well, obviously that would be problematic. We need to attend to the driver, right? They have power over the car. So the system that we teach is the vehicle, but we need to work with the driver individually to help you get where you want to go. And that's the thing that I say on these broadcasts, where it's important that you do get some education of some point at a certain time. Because if you want to trade, if you want to do this, then you've got to give yourself the opportunity to have somebody work with you so that you not only have a vehicle to get where you want to go faster, but somebody's worked with you, the driver, so you can get there safely. A car is a wonderful thing, but we don't let our 6-year-olds drive the car. I think you get what I'm saying, okay? Yeah, Benjamin, Tesla, Amazon. I mean, yes, lots of these stocks. They're just zooming. And who knows, like I said, maybe tomorrow they crater. I don't know. We'll see. Our students will be on tomorrow, and they'll be able to hear from us every day. So that's the benefit of that. I am going to drop a link. I've said this every week we've been on. I will drop a link for those of you who are interested in getting into a program with Tradeway. I will drop a link there. It will list everything you get, but primarily what I want to take from today, Tom says, pay less with education. Listen, if you're going to trade, you're going to spend something at some point, okay? You're going to spend something at some point, and I guarantee that if you go into this with no training at all, you're going to pay in losses, very, very likely. And you're going to accrue, or you're going to gather emotional baggage trading. And then you got to work that stuff out. Why not just bypass that? I'm going to post this link. We've got subscription services month to month. You can cancel anytime you want. I'm telling you what, for what you get in this stuff, you're learning how to make money in the stock market, right? This is the system gives you the potential to do that. So to pay a small fee every month to really learn how to do that, take control of your finances, great deal. It is. So I'll post that. We're coming up on an hour. We've gone over a little bit. I loved doing this. I hope you did too. I always do. We're back here on Wednesday. This is our last of the Keys to Breakthrough. We're going to sum it all up. If you haven't been on that series, you are missing out on keys to your breakthrough. And if you've been with us in the series, you've noticed that I'm getting more bold as we're doing these keys. I'm getting fired up. I'm getting passionate because these keys are working in my life right now, and I want them to work in your life too. So if you haven't been on there, it's a very high likelihood, unless you've heard these somewhere else, that you're missing out on something that can really help you get breakthrough in an area of your life that matters to you. And if it matters to you, it matters to me. If you ask people who know me, that is true. I want to see breakthrough in your life, and certainly I want to see it in your trading. So we'll see you on Wednesday for the last one of those. This is Market Monday charting. It's not that scary. It's not that scary. We just got to practice and have a coach. And we can do that for you here at Tradeway. Okay, guys, leave a comment. I'm looking on there. If you got anything else you want to ask, say, declare, argue with, put it on there. I'm happy to do that dance with you guys. Thanks for being on again. We'll see you next time.